Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Brian.
And I'm Carrie.
And this podcast is dedicated to making things simple and easy for you in the kitchen. Carrie Brown is a classically trained, world-class chef who has a passion for creating ketogenic recipes that taste better than anything you've ever experienced. But more than that, she loves teaching people how to cook the right way.
And each week on this podcast, Brian and I discuss all the ways you can create awesome keto food that is guaranteed to make you a rock star in the kitchen.
If you'd like to learn more about Ketovangelist Kitchen, you can go to KetoVangelistKitchen.com and sign up for the newsletter.
In exchange for your email address, you'll get brand new recipes delivered to your inbox, ready for you to whip up in the kitchen and enjoy with your friends and family.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and learn. You're about to enter the Ketovangelist Kitchen. And hello again, everybody. My name is Brian. That's Carrie. Say hi, Carrie.
Hello.
There's a really bad echo right now. So hopefully it'll go away because I don't think the listeners want to hear it. So how are you today, Carrie?
I am away.
Okay. I don't know what that means. You're away.
That means I'm not in my normal place. I am in Blaine, Washington, which is the almost not in America. It's the top left-hand corner
Of America?
of the contiguous United States, not including Alaska.
Not including Alaska.
So I can see Canada.
Oh.
From my chair here, I can see Canada. It's lovely.
Are they behaving? Because Canadians have a reputation of being rather rambunctious.
No, they are behaving. Okay. Probably because the weather is not very conducive to
shenanigans.
Misbehaving. It's like the seas, the ocean is bumpy, and the skies are grey, and there's snow everywhere. But it's lovely nonetheless.
So now the listeners cannot see this, so I'm going to point this out to them because because I can. You are wearing a very colorful jacket. You are.
Yes, I am.
And that is something that is not normally.
It's
carried.
Actually a hoodie. See?
Oh dear. And so let me describe this jacket for the audience in case they are curious. It has just about every color of the rainbow. But they are patterned and they are like quilted, and I don't mean like it's made of quilt material. I mean it's like little patches of it's little squares that are sort of sewn together or combined in different colorful patterns, and all of them have designs on them. I think that's a fleur-de-lis, and that's a snowflake on one, and there's like lines and pastels, and is that a heart? What is that?
That's the sun.
Oh, the sun. You'd think the sun would be bigger, but okay. Anyway, it's very, very colorful. And so I want to say thank you to Carrie for wearing that and blinding me while we do this. So what is it that we are going to be talking about today, Miss Carrie Brown?
We are going to be talking about the most asked question on the awesome Ketovangelist Kitchen Facebook group. There is one question that trumps every other question on there. And we're going to not answer it, but we're going to help you all to answer it for yourself.
So this would be a situation where we are going to be teaching people how to fish. We're not going to be giving them a fish. But there's actually no fish involved with this.
We have no fish to give.
Yes, we have no fish. So was that a British song? Yes, we have no bananas, or was that an American song that the British adopted?
Oh, I'm sure it was the other way around.
Okay. The Brits
because we were there first.
The Brits were everywhere first.
And we used to rule the world, remember?
I do. I remember it was many, many years ago, in the early 80s, when the British Navy was really powerful.
Yeah.
So so the number one question that we get in the Ketovangelist Kitchen Facebook group, by the way, that's facebook.com/groups/Ketovangelist Kitchen. If you're not a member, you should join because it's really the best keto food group that I know of. So you should.
There is 33
Yeah,
33,000 awesome keto cookers sharing recipes and trials and tribulations of foods and stuff.
right. So if you like that sort of thing, if you're into food and you're into keto and you're into keto food, really, I mean, what's to lose? So what is the number one question that is asked in that group that we're going to address today?
Is it keto?
Is it keto? All right. So this is a common question that gets asked all over the place. Is it keto? And there's a number of reasons why. But before we get to that, we have some house cleaning to do. I'm going to read a review from our iTunes reviews because we finally got some new ones, and I want to read one. Is that okay, Carrie?
Whatever your little heart desires, Mr. Williamson.
Okay, so this is a review from RR99999999. That is their account. One more time, RR99999999. And the title is Awesome Sauce, which, by the way, as I've stated on numerous occasions, is a very low-carb sauce. Awesome sauce. Says, love every one of the podcasts. So much information that can be used. It's a very short, very excellent, very to-the-point review. So thank you, RR9999999999 for your
Thank you.
awesome sauce review. For it, so if you would like for Carrie and I, to take a gander at one of your awesome reviews for us and read them on the air, go to your iTunes account, make sure you're logged in, and leave us a nice 5-star rating and review, because we can really use the help in iTunes ratings. Plus, it helps me to convince Carrie that she's awesome, because I tell her that all the time, and if other people are telling her that, she believes me even more. So you should.
I don't believe you at all.
Well, okay. So I'm telling myself that you believe me if other people are saying it. Let me have my delusions, woman. So everyone who's listening, go leave a review on iTunes for how awesome Carrie is. So there. Okay, so is it keto? Is it keto? That's the question for today. So the quick answer is maybe. But how do we teach someone to know whether something is keto or not?
Well, first of all, whenever I see that question, my mind always goes to, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is it keto? I think, I mean, tell me your thoughts, but I think that means, can I eat it and stay in ketosis?
I would agree that the majority of people who ask that question, that is the root of their question is this going to knock me out of ketosis? And so variants of that question is this allowed? Can I eat this? Those kinds of things. So when someone says, is it keto? They're asking, is this something that is going to keep me in ketosis if I eat it? And there's a lot of ways to answer that. And of course, we're taking a general category, so we're going to try to give general advice so that everyone can, as I said, learn how to fish. Sans fish. Am I allowed to call dibs anymore? Or have my dibs, is my prohibition on dibs gone away?
Because I'm in Blaine and I'm sitting in front of an open fire, whether dibs are back or not, I'm going to allow you to have dibs today.
All right. Then should the subject come up, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to whether or not I can call dibs on the appropriate band names. So I'm just telling you now. Just telling you now. Be prepared. Okay. So first things first. When we're talking about is it keto and we're trying to help people figure it out for themselves, and this is really the root of it, right? Is if we can teach you how to do it yourself, how to figure out if something is keto yourself, then you don't have to wait around for someone else to tell you, because you grab your phone, you're in the grocery store, and you start asking the people in the group. And if someone doesn't, if a bunch of people don't see your post, you have to sit around and wait. And then it gets awkward because you've spent 4 hours in one aisle in the grocery store, and people start to think you're a little weird. So, and plus,
but also you can get you can get different answers to the same question from different people. So you could actually end up in the grocery store in the aisle more confused than when you asked the question in the first place.
Right, and that's the last thing you want. You don't want to be more confused when you're in the grocery store than when you walked in. It should be the opposite.
Down with confusion.
Down with confusion. Okay, so what's the first thing that we need to talk about? What is the first step or issue or tactic or whatever?
So when I think about the question really being, can I eat this and stay in ketosis? That immediately makes me think of the whole, if it fits your macro thing. So just to preempt this all with, in our ever-growing world, is it keto doesn't just mean, are there few enough carbs that I will no longer be in ketosis? It's also about other ingredients that we don't recommend for certain reasons. Mostly, is it inflammatory to your body? Because there's no point in eating stuff that's got no carbs if it's doing other damage to your body at the same time.
Yeah, and that's a great point, right? So the issue may not be, first of all, if it fits your macros, is the bane of my existence. I hate everything about it. And I make it my mission to eradicate that mindset from the face of the planet. No offense if anyone's a big fan of it. We just disagree on that point. But that being the case, it's not necessarily that, okay, so something contains it contains sugar, but not enough to kick you out of ketosis, or it contains peanuts and you are particularly sensitive to peanuts and it is inflammatory to your system, those kinds of things. Naturally, there are individualized kinds of questions that you have to address that nobody else is going to be able to tell you. Is this going to fit with what you're eating to stay in optimal keto, or to stay in the preferred ketogenic range? Because even if your insulin levels are low, if you're eating food that's inflaming everything, all the soft tissue in your body, you're still not able to reap the benefits of being in ketosis or of being ketogenic, because your body is still fighting against itself in that regard. So it's not a simple matter of it doesn't have this, so it's fine. It's a simple matter of it has to fit your optimal ketogenic state. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay.
However, just to stop people from maybe, I think people want black and white answers.
Not like your jacket. They would not, if that's the case, they would not like your jacket as the answer. Just so you know.
And in reality, this is not black and white. There's gray. There's, peanuts make me inflame. Half the dairy makes me inflame. It doesn't make you inflame, right? So we can give guidelines, but you still have to apply them to you, and there is no other you on earth, right? So you've got to take the guidelines and then make them work with how your body responds to stuff.
There is no other you on this earth than you.
Right.
That's deep. That is deep stuff right there. I'm not kidding. Unless you get cloned, and then there's at least two yous there. Unless, of course, you're Welsh or Australian, then there's lots of yous. But that's a different kind of yous. You guys can't see Carrie rolling her eyes at me right now, but she really is. Like she's gonna strain her optic nerve. That's how hard she's rolling. Like, did you hear that? Did you hear that audible sigh that she just uttered? from her chair.
My couch. I'm on a couch.
Okay, she's on a couch. Because she needs a place to lie down. That's really what's going on. Okay, so
I say that for new people, right? Because I get a sense of, from some people, I feel this sense of panic when they say, "Is it keto?" or "Can I drink this?" and it's just not as black and white as we all would like. And so we're all going to have to get used to some level of grey. And grey is your body might do okay with this versus your body might not. So just don't panic.
Right. It's okay. Wasn't that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Wasn't that the phrase? Don't panic. Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
I love Douglas Adams. I love Douglas Adams. He was one of your compatriots. He was one of your fellow
Yes,
Brits.
that was cult listening back in the day. Cult listening.
Of course.
We used to have, what's the word? Pirated. I mean, we were all the kids were taping on tape recorders and sitting there very quietly so that we wouldn't, taping it from other people's tape recorders and all of that kind of jazz, so that we all had a copy.
Uh-huh.
It was quite the thing back then.
And rightly so.
Knowing where your towel is and understanding that the answer to everything was 42.
Yes, all of those things are still culturally relevant today. So, and if you're listening to this and you have no idea what we're talking about, I don't know what to say. You're missing out. It might be a little dated now, but it's still some great stuff. Anyway, okay, so the idea here being, of course, everyone has an individual response, and everyone's responsible for their individual responsibilities. So you need to figure out what works best for you, and we've said that over and over and over again. There is no one size fits all. There is no panacea. You've got to figure out what works best for you. So what we're giving you are basically guidelines that you can use to figure out what works best for you. We're not telling you this is what you need to eat, this is what you must have, this is what you must avoid. Not in an overall sense. Now, of course, this is keto. So sugar, if it's got sugar in it, you don't want it. I mean, if you're wanting to be keto, sugar, it's a negative. That's just right off the bat. Processed carbs, grains, those kinds of things, negative off the bat. Aside from those points, there's a lot of variability there. So what's the next step that we need to address?
So when you're in the store and you're looking at because we're almost invariably, the questions are related to some packaged, bottled thing. We rarely get the, is potato keto when we're talking about a whole food. We rarely get those.
The answer is no. The answer is no, by the way.
Yes, the answer is no. It's always a package, a bottle, a can, something like that. And there's millions of products out there. And as we know from the brilliant podcast that Brian did with...
which one?
The guy who used to work for the food manufacturer.
Jeff Scott Phillips.
Jeff Scott Phillips. If you haven't listened to that, go up to Ketovangelist and listen to that podcast because it was brilliant. And it was basically sharing with us how incredibly difficult it is to know what's in anything just by reading the ingredients.
Right.
But bearing that in mind, when you're in the store and you pick up a packet of carton something and you don't know if it's keto, flip it over and look at the nutritional breakdown. Look down for the carbs. It'll say carbs and then it'll have you a gram number. And then under that, it'll have some variation of fiber with a gram number, might pull out sugar alcohols and a gram number, and then sugars and a gram number. Mm-hmm. So look at that. Look at the total carbs. Take off the fiber, which will leave you with a net gram number.
All right, so let's do that one more time, just in case people are confused. Say it one more time. So you're going to take the total carbs, and
you're going to take the total carbs listed on the nutrition label,
and you're going to subtract a couple of things.
Yes, and I forgot. You're going to subtract fiber, mm-hmm. and you're also going to subtract sugar alcohols.
Okay.
The number that's left is your net carbs that you need to care about.
Because those are the ones that are actually metabolized. Those are the ones that are actually impact in terms of energy absorbed into your body. Right.
So then you want to take a check of what the serving size is, because that net carb number that you ended up with is per serving. So if it's a can of drink, because beverages are a complete minefield. If it's a can or a bottle of drink, you have your net carb number. Just check to see what the serving size is, because often I'm finding that you assume that it's the whole can, the whole jar, the whole bottle. Often it's not. So if it ends up that the drink has 5 grams per serving, and you think, oh, well, that's okay. Look up. If the serving is 2 servings, if you drink that whole thing, you're now 10 grams of carbs.
And that was a classic trick that the soft drink industry pulled off for a while. They would put on their labels that a particular serving only had, say, it was like 12 grams of sugar in it, which is still huge, but this is before keto, right? 12 grams of sugar, but there were like 2.5 to 3 servings per bottle. So they would like minimize the font on the serving sizes, and they would just put, oh, there's only 12 grams of sugar, no problem. But you drink the whole bottle, and you're getting 30 grams of sugar in one thing. So it's not just enough to say this particular food has this particular number of grams of a particular macro. You have to look at how many servings are in the whole thing, so that if you eat the whole thing, this is what you're looking at, right?
The same is also true, I've noticed, on bars of chocolate. And I don't mean I hope nobody's going to be eating, like Mars bars and that kind of candy, but I'm talking about plain chocolate. And you'll look on it, and it'll say, and you'll think, ooh, that number's really low. Mm-hmm. But if you go up and look at the number of servings, they are never talking about the whole bar. They're talking about there's 3 servings or 4 servings or 2.5 servings in this bar. So if you want to eat the whole bar, then you're looking at a much higher number than you might have thought by just looking at the net carb number on the label.
Okay, so that's one way to kind of get caught off guard or taken by surprise, right? So that's one kind of tool to use. What's another one to figure out?
The other one, so once you've figured out, so if the grams per, the net carbs, mm-hmm. grams per serving are high, you just put it down.
Yeah.
Just don't. We don't even go on to the next part. It's like one of those diagrams where it's just like, yes, no, okay, stop.
Right, a decision tree or a flow chart, yeah.
Right, it's just like, so if there's too many carbs in it, net carbs per serving, just don't. Just put it down, right. Move on.
Yeah.
If the level of carbs in it are something that you're comfortable with per serving, then look at the ingredients list.
All right, so the ingredients list. So what are some of the things that people should be looking for with the ingredients list to know whether or not something is not keto?
Any grains.
Okay.
Any at all. Any grains at all. Oats, corn, wheat, barley, rye, tapioca.
Quinoa.
quinoa, rice, grains. If it says grains, put it down. That's it. You can stop right there. Sugar or any form thereof.
Yeah.
Of which there are about 50 names, and which I could probably remember off the top of my head 3. But ones that really, sugars, high fructose corn syrup, actually any corn syrup, agave, honey.
Yeah, and my particular favorite is when they say something along the lines of dehydrated cane juice. That's another one.
Right.
That's just sugar. It tries to sound elegant, but it's just sugar. Or if the ingredients is coconut sugar, people will think, oh, it's got coconut sugar, so it must be healthy. No, it's sugar. So if it's got the word sugar in it or cane in it, it is not going to be okay. Right? So any grains, any sugars.
However, of course, there are a couple of exceptions.
Such as?
Bacon.
Okay.
And yogurt. And fermented things.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. For bacon,
because I know this is where we have lots of people who get very upset on the Facebook group over bacon, not so much yogurt and fermented foods, but they get very upset about bacon. So let's clear up the bacon issue.
Right. So bacon, as part of the curing process, every bacon producer adds sugar to their cure or their rub that they put on the slab as it dries out and it gets ready for processing. Now, the amount of sugar that's in a bacon cure is very small, but it's there for a particular reason. It's there because it sucks moisture out of the food itself, which means it is more stable, because the more moisture you pull out, the less bacteria that can actually grow in the food. So that's why it's there. It's a very small amount. Not only that, but if you look at how much you actually would get in just a slice of bacon, it would not be very much. But also, you're going to cook that bacon, and in the cooking process, that sugar gets burned away. So even the small amount that would be on those slices of bacon, they're gone or they're burned away in the cooking process. But here's the real takeaway. They make several brands of uncured bacon, and so if you are concerned about that 1 or 2 grams of sugar that it says on the label and you don't want any at all and you're a purist, and I totally admire that and I'm right there with you, I appreciate that. They make uncured bacon so that it's not a problem, you can find it. So of course, Carrie and I have talked about this before, you got to do the best you can. Everyone lives within their own limits. So if you can't find uncured bacon in the grocery store that you're in, make the best decision you can and enjoy it, right? It's not going to, the amount that's in there is not going to be detrimental or deleterious to you because it's so small and it also gets burned away.
Caveat number 2 is that you would want to avoid all the flavored bacons.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
The maple bacon and the meats that have been, and the sausage and the maple that have actually had a whole bunch of stuff added to them outside of any curing process that are, actually flavored.
Right.
Those you want to avoid.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Other than that, bacon is all good, and don't worry about seeing sugar in the ingredients for the reasons that Brian just stated.
Okay, so that's a great point. No flavored stuff. It should be bacon flavored. Really, that's the key. That's really the point.
And on the back on the little nutrition label, it should say less than 1 gram, where it says sugars or carbs, for bacon that is just cured,
right,
using sugar as a tool.
Now the other thing that Carrie talked about was yogurt or yogurt for my fellow Americans, and other fermented foods. And the reason that there's sugar on the label there is because the the source material for the fermentation contains sugar. Now, the governmental agencies do not require the food producers to put on the label the content of the sugar after fermentation. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, and the primary reason is it's hard for them to get an accurate representation because different batches will ferment and different batches will burn. So fermentation, for those who don't know, is when you introduce a particular kind of bacteria or yeast into a system and it burns the sugar off and it produces either lactic acid or it produces alcohol. Now, obviously, yogurt, wait, do they make alcoholic yogurt? Because that would be interesting. Most of it, though, I'm assuming most of it is not. Most of it's just the lactic acid buildup of the fermentation process. So that being the case, they don't know how much sugar has actually been burned away in the fermentation process, but they don't care because they have to package the stuff and get it out into the fridge. We're talking specifically for yogurt, right? So fermented foods, if you look at the labels, what you're looking at is the amount of sugar before fermentation. And I've heard people who are in the food industry tell me that you can basically cut that number in half and be very, very safe. Most of the time, it's even a quarter. But just if you want to play it safe, you can cut that number in half. So if you look at a label and it says it's got 10 grams of sugar per serving in this particular yogurt, you can basically assume it's going to have 5 because it's been fermented to that point. So you don't have to worry about it as much. So fermented foods, fermented yogurt stuff, that is an exception to that rule. There's an exception to that rule. For that exact reason. You don't have to worry as much because that process has burned off all the sugars. And of course, for milk, that sugar is lactose, which is not as deleterious as sucrose, fructose, those kinds of things. It's a much easier sugar when it comes to the insulin response and those kinds of things. Of course, lactose also requires a certain protein. If you don't have it, you are lactose intolerant, and then you get all kinds of digestive issues. So for some people, dairy is just right out, and that's just the way it goes. So anyway, that was my long rambling answer.
To clarify, we are talking about plain whole milk yogurt or plain whole milk Greek yogurt. We're not that, all of what Brian just said does not apply to anything that's got added sugar or flavors or fruit or da 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 da. Those are all almost certainly off the table. Brian is talking specifically about plain whole milk yogurt.
Yeah. So if you see in the ingredients list, and this is the thing, that's a great point from that Carrie's talking about, and I always forget because I don't even think about it anymore. If you see sugar as an ingredient in the ingredients list, put it down, right? Because real Greek yogurt is not going to have sugar on the ingredients list. It will have it in the nutrition facts and the nutrition label because it's got lactose in it, or it did before it was fermented. But if it has an added amount of sugar in the actual item itself, put it back because it's not plain, full fat Greek yogurt. Now, of course, Carrie likes to do a particular thing to get even more fat into her yogurt, and we've talked about it before. She doesn't buy the full fat yogurt. She totes cheats. She buys the
Gasp! I buy non-fat Greek yogurt.
I don't even know how to talk to her about this. Non-fat Greek yogurt.
And I do that because, and regardless of the fact that the amount of sugar you actually consume is way less than it says on the label because of the fermentation process, I like to buy yogurt with the least amount of sugar grams in it.
Right.
And so the one I mean, I don't have access to all brands, but in my part of the world, the absolute lowest sugar content Greek yogurt is Trader Joe's non-fat Greek yogurt. Has a lot less sugar than the full-fat version. So I buy the non-fat and I add heavy whipping cream. I just pour it in and mix it up. I don't whip it. I just pour liquid heavy whipping cream into my bowl with the yogurt and mix it up. And that's how I add the fat back in, but keep the sugars absolutely minimal.
So you don't whip the cream. You just pour it in liquid-like.
Yep, I pour it in liquid-like and mix it up.
Someone in our group, in the Ketovangelist Kitchen group, tried that after you talked about it during the dairy episode a few weeks back, and
she was very excited about that.
She was very excited about it. So apparently there's something. Carrie knows what she's doing. Apparently, there's something there.
I have my moments.
Right. She knows her yogurt. She knows how to get the maximum bang for her yogurt buck. So there.
Yes.
Okay, so there are certain exceptions to whether or not there's a certain amount of sugar in things, and those two primary exceptions are going to be bacon and fermented fermented type foods like yogurt, primarily. So those are kind of the exceptions. But for the most part, like Carrie was talking about, you can pretty much go by what the label says. And if he sees any kind of sugar being added as an ingredient, you probably want to avoid it.
Right.
All right. So what's the next thing?
What else? So I think there's a couple of things that people get very hung up on in the group. Soy. We do not recommend soy.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
Or any kind of soy. We don't recommend it. Does it kick you out of ketosis? No, but does it do anything good for your body? We don't think so.
Right. So, yeah, I want to take a second to address that because I hear people, I mean, strangely enough, people get really like mean about food, and it's strange to me, but like people get like really, really angry about someone saying that you shouldn't eat soy. Now, here, Carrie and I are not telling you that you should or shouldn't eat anything. What we're telling you is here's a guideline. You're an adult, eat whatever you want. That's fine. So I don't use soy. I don't eat soy because I don't like we were talking about in the beginning, it might not kick someone out of ketosis, but it's not an ideal food, and it's not a beneficial food. If you look at soy consumption in the United States from like the 1960s through today, what you'll see is, and of course, correlation is not causation. I understand that, but what you see is a very close correlation between the amount of soy consumed in terms of, especially in the way of oil and tofu, and the amount of disease, metabolic disease that takes place, particularly cardiovascular disease, particularly heart and circulatory type diseases. So I'm not a fan of soy at all in any way, shape, or form, with one exception. If you can find a soy sauce that does not have added wheat to it in small amounts, I don't have a problem with that, because again, it's fermented, and that fermentation process destroys a lot of the bad stuff in it. So am I saying that you have to eat that? No. Am I saying that I would have, that I personally, Brian, would not have a problem with that? That's what I'm saying. So I'm not telling you to or to not eat it. I'm telling you that, in my opinion, for me, for my consumption, I wouldn't have a problem with a good soy sauce that didn't have wheat in it. So did that cover that subject?
It did. So soy is, so I think I'm probably going to start like just shutting down posts where people get upset about soy, right? Because it's like, it's gray. It's kind of your own thing. We will never promote it, right, or suggest it or recommend it or put it in any of our recipes, because we don't believe that it's good for you. Right. Soy does all kinds of crazy things to boys' hormones too.
Right.
So particularly men, we don't. If you want to, go ahead. But, you asked us, is it keto? We believe that excludes soy.
Right. I will tell you every time that I would not eat it. I'm not telling you not to. I'm telling you that if you're asking me, does soy fit into an ideal ketogenic nutritional plan, I would say no. I would say no every time.
Right.
So that's just me. Other people are like, yeah, but it's not bad because I had some and I feel fine. Okay. That doesn't mean it's okay for everyone else, right? Just like I'm not saying I have a problem with it, so you shouldn't eat it. Someone else saying I don't have a problem with it, so you should eat it is exactly the same logical construct, and neither one of them are correct. So
Right.
you'll never hear me advocate it. You'll never hear Carrie advocate it. She never puts it in her recipes. And if Carrie doesn't put it in her recipes, you know it's not worth it because Carrie likes to put a lot of stuff in her recipes. She's very what's the word daring.
Daring.
What's the word I'm looking for there? She likes a lot of variety and stuff. She's creative. What's the like you
I
don't,
like to keep my food exciting.
yes, you are a thrill seeker. That's what it is. You're a
A
recipe
food
thrill
thrillist.
thrillist. Yes, that's what you are. Okay, so soy stuff. We're gonna say no.
You don't wait. You don't want to use that as a band name? The food thrillists?
I like it. I'm writing it down.
What's wrong with you?
I like it. I did not call dibs on it. You're correct. Because you had me see. This is what soy does. It ruins your cognitive abilities. This is what soy does. So I'm totally verklempt now. All right. So soy, we're gonna say no. We're gonna say no. So if you look at the ingredients list and it has soy on it, the answer is no. So that's a fair bet. What else?
So then we open the can of worms, which is the ever popular sweetener debate.
Oh boy. Yeah. So okay.
So we've looked at the number, and the gram number is appropriately low per serving that you would consider eating it. Okay, so we're at that point. So now we're looking, and of course this is anything that's got any kind of sweetener in. This is where you need to look at the ingredients list and see what actually sweeteners they are using. And this is kind of similar to the soy question. There are, for example, Splenda, which is sucralose, which is sucrose, i.e. sugar that's been bombarded with chlorine. That's what it is. So it starts out as sugar, gets bombarded by chlorine, ends up as sucralose, aka Splenda. I can't remember all the other brand names, but there are no circumstances under which I will consume that.
Right.
However,
and this is a big however, right? This is a big however. People need to pay attention to what comes after the however.
Because I have known people, I have friends in my life who had such a dramatic change for the better in their health simply by stopping eating Splenda. I mean, like neurological, just like, wow, who knew? I will never knowingly consume sucralose. However, that's gonna have to be your choice. Right. I will never recommend it. I will never put it in any of my recipes. I don't even talk about it. This is like a weird time space continuum where I'm actually talking out loud about it. But
yes, every time up to this point that I've even mentioned sucralose, she covers her ears and just goes la 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 until I leave her alone.
So I am hardcore on sucralose because I've seen the effect that it has had on people in my life.
Right.
However, I don't think that everybody has the same response to it, and I don't know. So just for me, never. If it says sucralose or Splenda, I'm not eating it. Does that mean it's not keto? Well, no, because it doesn't have any carbs in it. Does it spike your insulin? For some people, yes, it does.
Right.
For other people, no, it doesn't. And we can't possibly know that.
Right. And if we know it and you don't, then something's desperately wrong with that situation.
Right. So the point is, the artificial sugars or artificial sweeteners are another kind of gray area where we can tell you for, what we would do is stevia.
Right.
And make sure it's not blended with anything else like maltodextrin, which is a sugar.
Right.
Stevia, plain erythritol, plain xylitol. Those are the things that we use and we recommend as being the optimal choice for keto.
Not necessarily in that order.
Not necessarily in that order.
Right.
But those are the three.
Right.
And I will never use or recommend any of the other things, because I just think it's way too complicated. People react differently to different things. And it's just easier. Life's just a lot more simple if you just, these are the three things I can use.
Right. And that's kind of where I fall in it too, is I personally don't use that stuff. I don't use sucralose. I don't use Splenda. My wife and my son, they both consume stuff with it in it. And they're fine, and they're not showing any sort of deleterious or negative responses or reactions to it. So they're okay with it, and that's fine. I personally don't. My response to someone else asking if it's okay for them is try it, see how you respond to it. If you're okay, it's okay. If you don't respond to it well, then it's got to go. Right? This is one of those situations where I'm hardcore about give it a shot and see. I'm not hardcore about it's absolutely something that you have to have or you must avoid completely. There are some people that have no negative response to it whatsoever, and that's perfectly okay. I won't eat stuff that has it in it. And Carrie doesn't make stuff that has it in it. And that's just because we personally don't like it. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't fit into your keto lifestyle. So we're not saying that you can't have it. We're saying, if you notice that it causes you bad stuff, then you got to get rid of it. That's just all there is to it. The options that we have that we do advocate, if you absolutely have to have sweetened stuff, they're going to be erythritol, xylitol, and stevia. Those are the three. So if you're looking at the ingredients list and it's got those three things in it and nothing else in terms of a sweetener, then you're probably good to go. So
there have been a lot of studies, research on whether artificial sweeteners such as aspartame and potassium aspartame K and sucralose can cause some people to have an insulin response, which is what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
So, but whether you're one of those people or not, we have no way of knowing.
Right. So it really comes down to look, if you're looking for someone to give you exactly A, B, C, do this, this, and this, and you're fine, then here's the response I'm going to give you. Avoid everything that is sweetened, period. If you're looking for like a hard and fast black and white rule, do not eat anything that has sweetener of any kind. That is the best rule to follow. If you're not to that point where you're looking for that sort of advice or guidance, then there's going to be some trial and error that you're going to have to go through. So if you can't get away from the whole idea of having sweetened something or other, then you gotta kind of figure out what works best for you. I would recommend that you start with one of those three that we talked about.
Right. If you're new,
right,
I would say don't just keep it simple. Don't even go down that road of figuring it out. Just erythritol, xylitol, plain stevia. I say plain stevia because there's products like Truvia baking blend, which says it's stevia, but it's actually got, I think, maltodextrin in it, which is sugar.
Or dextrose, one of the two, yeah.
Dextrose, one of the two. It's got something else in it. So that's why I keep advocating stay away from the blends, because the manufacturers are not here for our health. They're here for their bottom line. So I just plain stevia, xylitol, erythritol. If you stick with those, you'll be fine.
And if I had to pick one, if I had to push for just one, just absolutely one, I would say stick with erythritol. Now, if I had to find that, one that's going to make the biggest, best bang for your buck, it's going to be erythritol. Just because stevia has a thing where a lot of people don't like the flavor. It's got a weird kind of aftertaste. People really hate it. So if that's a problem for you, erythritol is going to be your better bet. And the only reason I'm not saying xylitol is the option is because xylitol is dangerous to dogs. And a lot of people, for some reason, feed their food to their dogs. And the last thing you want to do is be responsible for giving your dog a xylitol. So erythritol is totally dog friendly. It's less sweet than sugar, so it actually can kind of wean you off some of the sweetness that you've kind of been hooked on. And it's totally in line with everything that we've talked about at this point. So, and I do need to make a correction too, by the way. In the previous episode when we talked about sweeteners, I said, and I was wrong, I said that erythritol was derived from hardwood. It is not. It is a fermented product derived from glucose. It is not derived from hardwood. I read that.
That would be xylitol.
Right. I read that, and I got the two confused. So I apologize to anyone I led astray who went out and started chopping down trees to make their own erythritol. You probably shouldn't have done that anyway. So
they would have ended up with xylitol, though, so it's not all bad.
It's not so bad, but you get my point.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make a correction there, and that was brought up by one of the members of the KETOGENIC admin team on Facebook. She pointed it out to me, and there was a lot of mocking as well. I have to point out, and I cried a little bit, but I'm okay now. I've gotten over it.
I missed that whole thing, apparently.
I think you did. I think you did miss it. I think you missed it.
Oh, I think that was last weekend. I missed everything last weekend.
No, it was longer. It was longer ago than last weekend, but I think you really missed it because you would have really, you would have joined in with fervor and zeal.
I was probably making stuff up in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's true.
I do that a lot.
That's what I've heard. You're always in the kitchen with Dinah. For those people who know that song. Anyway. Okay, so where does that leave us? What's left to figure out if something is keto or not?
There's probably some other little grey things, but I'm drawing a blank. Well, I think those are the things that people get most confused about on the Facebook group.
So the other things that you need to be on the lookout for are things that contain a lot of vegetable oils, canola oils.
Oh, how did I forget that?
I don't know. But
I don't know either. Vegetable oils.
So you want to avoid a lot of vegetable oils, particularly canola oil, because it's cheap and it's bad for you. There are some strains of canola oil, like the high linoleic canola oil, that are not bad for you, but you're not going to find that in mass-produced food. That's going to be more of a specialty food. So if you see like a mass-produced food and it's got canola oil in it, chances are it's not good. So vegetable oils, avoid those. And again, that's going to be on the ingredients list. So just because something is high fat doesn't mean it's good for you or keto.
Right, and that's actually, I don't know how I forgot that, because that's actually, everything that's oily is going to have a very low carb grams. Mm-hmm. So you may go, hey, yes, no carbs. It is important that you read the ingredients for vegetable oils.
Right.
We do not do vegetable oils.
Right. Now, the other thing that I'll say, and again, this is about me personally. I'm not telling you what to do or how to react to this, but this is me personally. If you see a crap ton of just chemical string names, just really long chemical names, they could be completely benign. They could be perfectly healthy. There could be nothing wrong with them. But the question becomes, at what point in time is it no longer actual food when 90% of the ingredients are created in a test tube? At some point in time, those kinds of things possibly asked. So the issue for me is, if it's got a whole bunch of things that are just like, is that a food or is that a chemical? I would avoid it personally.
That's a great point. There was actually in the last week, there was a couple of products, and I don't remember what they were. I think one was a kind of a chocolate syrup sauce thing, and I don't remember what the other one was. Mm-hmm. And the lady posted a picture and said, is this keto? And of course the ingredients was like, 0 carbs, but it had like 0 fat, 0 protein, 0 carbs, 0, 0, 0, 0. And so I'm like, okay, what is this? and I looked at the ingredients, and it was literally, it was just chemicals. There was no food in it.
Right.
None. So that's why you're looking at both the nutritional panel to see what the carbs are, but you're also looking at the ingredients, because just because it's got 0 carbs doesn't mean that it's good for your body or that it's a free-for-all.
That's a great point too. Nothing about keto is a free for all. So it requires some diligence to get used to some stuff. Now, once you're used to what your menu is and what's available to you, then you've got a little bit less. You can kind of go on autopilot a little bit more, but you kind of have to train yourself because it is so counter to what we're used to from years of eating poorly. So those are the 2 things I wanted to add was look for vegetable oils and look for just chemical after chemical after chemical after chemical. Because a lot of the times those chemicals are stuff like preservatives, or they're things that keep they keep it palatable, or they keep it like together. Because if you left those chemicals out, they would basically just be a goo oozing across your fingers. Like that's not real food. I do want to point one other thing out. From me personally, this is not an indictment on anything. This is nothing but me, just my own personal thing. Like for things like almond milk, for example, those kinds of things, I look at that and I'm like, okay, would that occur in nature by itself? No, it would not. So that's something that I would avoid, right? So not to say that you have to be, you have to wait for a fruit to fall off of a tree, or like an avocado to fall off of a tree, or if you have to wait for something to happen in nature for you to eat it. Like barbecue brisket doesn't happen in nature either, but basically all you're doing is taking a slab of meat and smoking it, right? So to me, those are not problematic. That's not problematic, but the process that you have to go through to get almond milk, totally not going to happen in nature, right? So those are just the guideline kind of things that I use. And also, just because something is convenient doesn't necessarily make it okay. It all comes down to what fits with what your overall plan is, like we were talking about in the very beginning. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All right, then. There we go. I have successfully bored Carrie to death. So now, yes, she's actually falling asleep as we talk right now.
One thing I'll just say about the Facebook group while I'm here.
What, before you go completely out? Yeah.
Before I fall over a nap on my couch here in front of the open fire.
Right.
Is there are times where particularly the Facebook group can get a bit overheated, mm-hmm. and we are hardcore about keeping certain things out, not because they wouldn't work for everybody
or anybody,
but because the Facebook group our mind is always to protect the new person, the person who comes to the Facebook group and goes, I don't know anything, what am I doing? So that's why we filter out not a lot of stuff, but we filter out stuff. We tend to filter out the gray stuff. Like if it fits your macros, it's going to be gone.
Right.
Because it is gray, and it is different for different bodies and different people, and people react differently. It is gray. It's not a black and white world. It's a very gray world. So the reason we're so hardcore on the Facebook group is because we are primarily trying to help the new people who do a lot better if they have black and white. Right. So we try and remove a bunch of the gray just to make it easier and simple for people to know what in the world they should eat.
Period. Yeah.
Period. That's why do some of us eat things that we delete from the Facebook group? Yes, because that's a gray thing, like the soy. I mean, Brian and I don't eat soy, but some people do. But we're not going to promote it in the group.
Right. Yeah, and not only are we not gonna promote it, but we're going to stamp it out if we see it.
Right.
And
But
that's not a personal thing. That's not a personal attack on anyone.
No.
We have decided these are the standards, and we're going to hold ourselves to that. And we're going to hold everyone else to that too. And to be completely honest with you, the response that we get for that is overwhelmingly positive, right? Because after you've been in the group for a while, you know full well what you to expect, right? And we have standards. We're going to hold everyone to them. And that's that. And there's a ton of groups out there. And look, and I've said this over and over and over again, find the group that fits best for you. You know, if you don't like that with us, that's okay. That's perfectly okay. But shame on you for not finding the group that does work well for you. You know, if you are dissatisfied, but you do nothing to fix it for yourself, that's a problem. You know, you've got to take that on yourself to do that. Which, by the way, that leads me into my next thing. Do you know what my next thing is?
I think I might.
It's Motivation Monday. So what are we going to be doing for Motivation Monday today? We are going to be talking about, this is a quote from Maya Angelou. Are you familiar with Maya Angelou? She is an author. I hate to say this, but did she die recently? For some reason, I hope I don't embarrass myself too poorly. She did die. She did die a few years ago. Okay. Not that we're celebrating that. She was a very popular author, poet, and she has a quote that we're going to be using for our Motivation Monday today, which is, and I quote, "If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. So the real takeaway there for me, when I look at that and I hear that, is that we are all individuals. We all have individual strengths and weaknesses, and we need to be able to utilize those for two reasons. One, to improve our understanding and appreciation of life, but also to help those people around us appreciate and understand their life a little bit more too. So if you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. So utilize the gifts that you've got in order to make your life and the lives of the people around you better, because you can be awesome even more than you are now. All right. So what is your take on that?
Well, actually, it reminded me of the lettuce episode that we did the other week.
I don't even know how to take that, but okay. Please go on.
Because you know me, I can't not relate everything to food.
Or lettuce. Or just lettuce in general.
Or lettuce. And it's just, I try new things. Just because it's not what everybody else does doesn't mean that it's not cool or awesome. And you may actually find that there's a better way to do things, or there's a better way to live than what everybody else is doing. The other thing that struck me was, and now I've just lost my train of thought.
While you're looking for that, I'll tie into what you're talking about, right? So the idea here is that normal is what someone else has set up as their standard, right? So amazing is what you can do to break that standard, to take yourself to something that's more in depth or more powerful than what they have set up for the standard.
Thank you. You reminded me of where my train of thought had gone, which was, it smacks of comparing yourself to someone else.
Yeah.
Normal is what everybody else is doing, right? So by definition, you're comparing yourself to someone else. It's very, very difficult to recognize how awesome you are, or to be the best you can be if you're continually comparing yourself to others. So compare yourself only to yourself, and you will figure out the way that's best for you, and you will discover loads of things that make you awesome if you stop looking outside and just focus on looking inside.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems that people have is they start comparing themselves to other people. And there's another phrase that goes along with that kind of idea, and that is you are comparing your practice film to everyone else's highlight reel, right? So you live your day every day. You know the grind that you go through. You see all your flaws, and you live through all the problems that you have to work through. But the external stuff that you see from everyone else is basically how that's their highlight reel. Like that's what they're showing you is their A game. So you having to compare yourself, you comparing yourself to them is just inappropriate. So you have to compare yourself to one person and one person only. That's you. Are you better off now than you were before? And if not, then you can do some work. But chances are you'll recognize that you can be amazing as long as you're not trying to be someone else's normal. All right. So that is our Motivation Monday. All right. So the final takeaway that we have for Is It Keto is
check out the net carbs per serving. If it is appropriately low, read the ingredients list. If there's any grains or sugars or vegetable oils, put it back.
just throw it down on the ground and make a loud noise. Just throw it. Don't even lob it. Just launch it into the ground. Oh wait, the lawyers tell me I can't tell you to do that. Okay, that's bad. Maybe just put it back on the shelf. Maybe just put it back on the shelf. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, where was Carrie when I was coming up with these ideas? She's an enabler.
And then for the other things, sweeteners, soy, chemicals, you have to use your own best judgment, or you have to go on how your body reacts to those things.
And if you're looking for a hard and fast rule, if you're looking for a hard and fast rule that you can look at as your guideline that you can use every single time, the answer is going to be don't eat it.
Right. Or at least don't eat anything that comes in a bottle, a can, or a packet.
Yeah. So there you go. That's basically it. All right. So that does it for the Is It Keto episode, my friend Carrie.
And we hope that you are now equipped to not feel the need to ask Facebook.
Yes.
Not because we don't want to help you. We do. But we worry about you standing in supermarkets fretting over things that probably don't need to be fretted over.
Right. Yeah, it's not that we don't want to interact. It's not that we don't want to help. It's that we want to get you to the point where we can interact and help about something else, where you're confident in this particular aspect.
Yeah, we want you to be confident. We want you to feel like you know what is good and what is not so good. We want you to feel empowered to take control of your keto experience, rather than you feeling like you need to rely on us. We are happy to help with absolutely anything, but we want you to have that self-confidence that you know for you what to do.
Right. We're all about being independent, baby. That's what we're all about. So there you go. All right, Carrie, I guess I'll talk to you next week then.
See ya.
And that'll do it for this trip to the kitchen. You can check us out at KETOVangelistKitchen.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. We'll get you recipes to your inbox every week. Also, you can join our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/KETOVangelistKitchen. Go to iTunes. Leave us a rating review. Tell the world how awesome Carrie is. Seriously. Because she's awesome. So everyone should know that. So you should share that. Because I know you think so too. All right, this has been another great episode, and we look forward to talking to you next time. And until then, keep being awesome. powered by ketones.